Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the late start. Today is Monday, October 26, 2020. It's approximately 1:10 p.m. Before we get the meeting started on the TID board, I'm going to ask for a pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we've got first item is the action item, approval of the minutes. This is the TID board. We'll have our work session immediately following this. First item is going to be action 2.1, approval of the minutes from May 11th, 2020 TID board.
So moved. Flores. Second, Gandara.
Motion made by board member Flores, second by Vice Chair Gandara. Any questions? Seeing none. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve the minutes from the May 11th, 2020 TID board meeting. Board member Abeyta-Stuvey?
Yes.
Board member Vasquez?
Yes.
Board member Bencomo?
Yes.
Board member Sork?
Yes.
Board member Flores?
Yes.
Board member Gandara?
Yes.
Chair?
Yes. Okay, we have three discussion items. The first one being the financial update, and Mr. Josh Saffel will discuss.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. My name is Josh Saffel on behalf of the Finance Department of the City of Las Cruces. I'd like to present the unaudited financial statements for the quarter ended September 30th. So, of course, the TID is made up of three different funds. So we're going to look at each fund separately. Starting with the TID operations, we see that in cash and investments, we have $3,708,715. Receivables are $32,835, and the due from state and county is $32,671. So we had total assets in this fund of $3,774,221. And there was an amount in restricted fund balance in the same amount of the $3,774,000. Looking at the budget to actual, there was total revenues in that fund for this period of $3,623. No expenditures, but there was a transfer out of $187,500. So this left a net change to the income of negative $183,877. The next fund is the TID Projects Fund. Here we see cash and investments in that fund of $971,740, which also happens to be the total assets and the same amount as a restricted fund balance. Looking at the actual expenditures for TID projects, we had total revenues of $646, total expenditures of $2,213. So the net change in fund balance for the period was a negative $1,568. Finally is our TID Street Bond Project Fund. Here we see cash and investments in this fund of $506,027 and a restricted fund balance in the same amount of $506,000. Looking at the activity, there was total revenue of $387, no expenditures, which left a positive net change in the fund balance of this fund of $387. That will conclude the presentation of the financial statements. Are there any questions?
No, didn't look like Josh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes, Vice Chair Gandara.
The negative number on the operations, Josh, the negative 183,000. Can you go back to that slide? I'm sorry, I didn't put the slide number.
Yes, give me just a second. I'll try and get back there. There.
Yes. The negative 183, is that where it?
The negative 183 would be the change to fund balance, which is caused by that transfer out of 187,000, which is reduced by the total revenue of 3,623.
So that transfer out was to where, Josh?
I do not have that information in front of me. I would have to get back with you on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, interested to know the transfer out. And this is where total revenues, tell me what that what would that consist of specific to the TID?
There are three areas that are highlighted: taxes, rental income, and investment income. So the rental income is 600. I'm not exactly sure what's generating that, but apparently the TID is renting out something, and so they're receiving income for that rental. And then investment income. So because you have that much money in the bank, it's generating income just by being in the bank.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody on staff know where that transfer of the 187,500,000 went to?
Leanne, looks like Leanne Demouche has a comment.
Yes, Mayor and Councilor Gandara. If you'll remember, I want to say it was probably about a year and a half ago. Many years ago, there was a transfer, or not actually a transfer, but when the TID began, there was money that was borrowed from the general fund.
Right.
We brought a resolution to council to pay that half of that back over 5 years. This transfer out is the first quarter transfers for that transfer of paying back the general fund.
Got it. Okay.
Right? Okay.
You did. Thank you, Leanne. I was just a little concerned. So the negative balance, should we be concerned? Is this where like revenues, where the GRT is being,
That transfer, Mayor, Councilor Gandara, that transfer was actually budgeted. I'd have to look at why there's the net change. One of the reasons that there is a net change is that if you look at your total revenues, they're so small right now because of COVID. And as you know what, this is the area, this is your district. So the areas in the downtown area, they've closed during COVID, or they've partially opened up, to 25%. Some of them have access to outside, because there's food in there, there's schools, there's, some churches in there. So a lot of the businesses for the downtown. So we have not been receiving any revenue on the TID, I want to say probably for the last maybe 6-7 months since COVID has started. And the reason for that is because there's a baseline. Remember, there's a baseline for the TID. So none of the revenues for the GRT are meeting that baseline, Counselor. So we're not getting anything above that baseline right now. But I will tell you, the last distribution that we just recently got just a few days ago, we got a really nice distribution. So I'm thinking that because the governor is letting up some of the constraints for that area, we'll start seeing the TID revenue come in again.
Okay. That's what I needed to know, Leanne. Thank you so much for your explanation, and thank you, Josh, for your presentation. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Dr. Martinez, you have something you'd like to say?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Board, and Vice Chair. We're actually in the updates section. We have a summary for fiscal year 19 and 20. So you're gonna be able to see the summary numbers of revenue into the TID shortly.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, Josh, thank you for that. So next we're gonna have the TID projects update by Ms. Liz Vega.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Dr. Martinez.
Oh, are you gonna do the update?
Actually, before we go into the updates, I like to highlight some internal strategic changes for the department, Mr. Mayor. And also I'd like to introduce our staff working right now in downtown, which is the TID area. And so starting this fiscal year, we made some changes to separate the destination downtown from business development that previously was managed by Mandy Gus. And so to allocate better resources to this program, we separated it, and currently Liz Vega is our interim destination downtown program. Another change was that we have the Rio Grande Theater now within Destination Downtown, and Chris Faber is here representing that. And then we have a new hire who is our newest Economic Development Coordinator. Her name is Irene Parra. And I wanted you all to meet the team in Destination Downtown who are rocking and rolling downtown. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I will pass it on to Liz for the actual presentation. Thank you.
Okay, before I get to Liz, Leanne, did you have another comment, or did you just forget to put your hand down? Leanne Demouche?
Oh, sorry, Mayor. I forgot to put my hand down.
Okay, okay, great.
I
No
apologize.
problem. Okay, thanks, Dr. Martinez. So now we're going to hear from Liz Vega on the TID projects update.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and board members. This is the TID project update for this TID board meeting. And as alluded to by Dr. Martinez, we are going to start it off with a recap of the TID revenue by fiscal year. This is trying to give you a picture of the variability, actually, of the TID over the past 2.5 years. You can see that in FY 2019, we had some very strong numbers coming in as revenue. And in FY 2020 and 21, it has tapered off. This is due to some construction projects, especially the two-way conversion being completed. So just something to keep note of. And as mentioned by Leanne previously, you can see that in August and September, we didn't have any revenue coming in because we did not meet that baseline. One of the projects that's being funded through the TID is the Parking Lot 7 bathroom renovation and some landscaping being done. Parking Lot 7 is the parking lot that's behind the Rio Grande Theater. We have a total budget for that of $490,000. Currently, we have 100% of the construction drawings completed. This does also include a new parking lot sign, so it'll be branded as Parking Lot 7. And there will be a relocation of the bench. So currently we have a bench that's in that area that we are going to relocate to the north end of Main. The timeline for this project, we are anticipating breaking ground in December of 2020. Currently we're going through the bid process for this project with an estimated completion date of March 2021. Next project that we have here is the CAMPO Street redesign. This is also TID funded, and the total budget for this project is $400,000. We recently had the kickoff meeting with Moles & Corbin and Associates. They will be the consultants for this project. The project manager from Public Works is Natasha Billy. And we have been identifying the stakeholders in the area, business owners, as well as the Arts and Cultural District, the Downtown Las Cruces Partnership, and others. And we are making sure that there is continuity with other projects. Currently, we also have a study for lighting and wayfinding signage in the Arts and Cultural District. So we're making sure that this project lines up with that one as well. Some of the scope of this redesign project includes taking into account the cultural impact of the area. As a lot of you know, this is the original town site for Las Cruces. We want to make sure that is included in this project. We'll also be looking at architecture and landscaping, updating the lighting to better match downtown Main Street, as well as what's going to be going into the Mesquite District. We'll also be looking at traffic control and ADA compliance with the sidewalks and the streets and everything like that. Another project that's in the works that the TID is funding is the online permitting through ACCELA. ACCELA is the software that community development uses for business licenses and things like that. We're going to be using it for renting of downtown public spaces. This will be all online, which will be very beneficial to those people who are renting the spaces. We're currently going through a user testing phase, and that should be complete by the end of this month. We anticipate a go live date for mid-November, and we'll have plenty of education, online tutorials and things like that. But I did also want to remind the board that downtown permitting is currently on hold through the end of 2020 because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And to finish on a very positive note, we have the holiday lights that will be going up in the downtown area. This is also going to be funded through the TID. It is an estimated budget of $18,000. Currently, we're working on a service agreement through purchasing. This includes decorations all along Main Street. This is in lieu of the plaza decorations that we unfortunately won't be able to do because of the pandemic this year. They're just high touch point areas and promote gatherings. So instead, we're going to put all of the trees on Main Street. We're going to light them up with Christmas lights. And these would be lit starting Saturday, December 5th and go through January 6th. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, a question from Board Member Bencomo and then Vice Chair Gandara.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you so much, Liz, for that presentation. Honestly, I have two questions. I'm going to start with the most important one first. Are we not having a big Christmas tree in the middle of the plaza this year?
Mr. Chair, Board Member Bencomo, unfortunately, we've had a lot of discussion internally about this, and because a couple of reasons. One, biggest being the health pandemic, where we don't want to encourage any sort of gathering. But the other is because the plaza is currently being utilized every Saturday for the farmers market for social distancing reasons. So having less decorations will allow them to continue operating safely. But I would like to open it up to, I believe the Parks and Recreation Director is here to answer some more questions on the decorations for downtown.
Thanks, Liz. I mean, that makes me sad, of course, but I also get it. And I know it's tough decisions, and I thank you all for making those decisions. I did want to ask, though, in all seriousness, you said 18,000 for decorations. Does that include, like, that just seems high. Does that include, like, the electric bill? Like, what is entailed in the 18,000?
Great question, Mr. Chair, Board Member Bencomo. So the 18,000 includes all of the lights. It also includes installation of those lights by the company. They will also be put on timers, which is a great thing to save electricity. So they'll be put on at a certain time and then shut off in the middle of the night. And they also include, so we're initially purchasing the lights, and that's a cost of about $3,000, and we'll have those lights to use in years to come.
Right.
So it's kind of a little bit of an investment up front, but then we'll be able to utilize it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Vice Chair Gandara.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Liz, for the presentation. Very exciting. Just some backstory, Board Member Bencomo. It has been a big deal. These lights are a big deal. And they were like, why is it only on the main, there by the plaza? Why doesn't it go up and down the entire street? And you can imagine, I got so much feedback about, hey, all of us along the entire Main Street is important. We want to see those lights. And so for at least a couple of years, I've been advocating for these lights. So I don't know if you saw me, but I was so excited to see that we are finally going to get the lights up and down Main Street. I think it will be beautiful. And as it obviously not the best substitute for the beautiful tree and the tree lighting ceremony, but I completely understand that. So I'm thrilled that we're able to do this. I think it'll make the business community there extremely happy and proud, and the folks who in the historic districts that come and frequent it, they will be very happy to hear this. Liz, my questions are around the CAMPO redesign. You had made mention the study on that the ACD is doing a study on the lights and the wayfinding. I wanted to see where are we at with this. I'm very concerned about that funding that has been allocated, obviously by legislators, and I want to make sure that we're utilizing that funding quickly.
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair Gandara, we are actually running these projects concurrently. So they did have a kickoff meeting for the Arts and Cultural District Wayfinding and Lighting Study a couple of weeks ago. So they're very much in the same time frame of finishing around January of next year. I do want to put your worries aside that we have been working through our grants office to ensure that we have been encumbering as much funds as possible, especially in that capital outlay, in order to not get it taken away.
Good, thank you, Liz. And the study on the lights in general, I know that David Maestas was working on that prior to him becoming our interim city manager. Wanted to see very specifically, I know we were doing a whole study on lighting for all of the city, but I haven't heard kind of where we're at. I hear different things, that it's completed, that we're still working specific to the lighting. Is that separate and apart from the lighting study that has been conducted or had been conducted maybe about a year ago?
Mr. Chair and Vice Chair Gandara, yes, that's a separate project, and potentially we can ask Public Works to get an update to you about that project.
Okay. So now is you're working on the lighting study specific to the Mesquite and Campo area? When will that be complete?
For Mr. Chair and Vice Chair Gandara, for these specific projects, for the Campo Street redesign, as well as the Arts and Cultural District, Mesquite Street lighting studies, those will be complete in January. And it's a package project, so not only the lighting, but also signage and all of that specific to these areas.
Good, Liz. So January of 2021?
Yes.
Correct. And then once we get that study back, when will we start to ramp up to the actual the actual work on Campo?
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair Gandara, once we get those studies back in January, we're hoping they're going to have design estimates for the different infrastructure that could potentially be included in those areas. And then we'll look at the budget that remains in Campo Street redesign, but also the budget that remains in the capital appropriation for the Arts and Cultural District, and start to make those purchases. So it'll be soon after the studies are completed and we can identify the budget for that.
So that's shortly thereafter, so the spring, you think, or?
I would guess the spring, yes. Okay.
And so you're completely redoing Campo infrastructure, right? Curb, gutter, sidewalk, that whole entire street, yes?
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair Gandara, that is a part of this entire redesign.
Okay, and I see Mayor, if I can, Tony's hand is up.
Yes, Tony. Yeah, sure. Tony Trevino.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. You are correct. The Campo reconstruction is going to include the roadway, sidewalk, curb and gutter, and drainage improvements. The approach we're going to take is having the consultant do a phase 1 study, which is there's a lot of stuff that's being requested for this roadway, bike lanes, walking paths, benches, and some decorative features throughout this road. So we're going to see what we have available for the right of way that we have and what we can do. So we're going to come up with about 3 different scenarios, bring them to the stakeholders and also to City Council, and see which way they'd want to move forward with. To go back to your question on the wayfinding and lighting in the Arts and Cultural District. The biggest thing that they're studying now is available right away for some of these areas to place these lights on. So I would like to say that we get starting construction right away. However, depending on any acquisitions we got to do for right away, that might kind of stall the construction and the design of it though. So this is going to give us kind of a heads up direction and what we got to do to work toward that and make sure we do it in a feasible, productive way so we don't kind of backtrack also.
Yeah, thank you, Tony, for that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know. And one of the things also that once we get these plans, we're going to have some public input meetings with the stakeholders, the arts and cultural districts, and thank God we have Liz here to help us coordinate all of those meetings. So
I appreciate that. Was my next question. Thank you for including that in your remarks. Thank you, Mayor. That will complete my questions.
Sure. Board Member Vasquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Dr. Martinez. Yeah, so it sounds like we have a great team lined up for Destination Downtown. I just have a couple quick questions on that, and that's regarding the Rio Grande Theater. I guess during the shutdown because of COVID, wondering, if you could just maybe briefly describe what staff assigned to the Rio Grande Theater have been doing, or if there's been any type of preparation for when the theater reopens, or just kind of the status of the Rio Grande Theater at this point. And considering we probably haven't been able to book really any shows, wondering if we should expect kind of a revenue projection that would show us again in the red on that for next year.
Mr. Chair, Board Member Vasquez, Chris Favor with the Rio Grande Theater. Yeah, so unfortunately, because of the public health order, we have been shut down since the middle of March, which means no programming of any kind. So right now, myself and some of the staff here at the theater, it was mostly contract tech help, is helping to facilitate the small business continuity COVID grant program. So there's a team of us, about 10 between the theater and Visit Las Cruces staff, who are accepting the applications, looking over the information, and processing those. So we've got the team working all day long to get this program moving, but unfortunately the theater, at this time and for the near future, does not appear to be open.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And so I mean, I guess we can expect in general that we'll be in the red on that, or because of decreased maintenance costs, what are we thinking budget wise for the Rio Grande Theater, I guess, in terms of projections for this fiscal year?
So, Mr. Chair, Board Member Vasquez, right now the only funds that are being spent really are just the staff who's helping to process the grant applications. And then when we're not doing that, we're helping economic development with other projects as well. So other than literally keeping the lights on and stuff at the theater, there's really no other expenses. I went ahead and canceled all the planned programming we had for the upcoming year. So there's nothing that we're having to pay for. We're sort of just in a holding pattern right now.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, unfortunate to hear that, but I look forward to a strong comeback when we're able to get the theater up and running, considering how much work I know you and other staff have put into that. So that's good. Thank you for that update. The other question is actually around our public-private partnership with Max Bauer at the Amador. I don't think we've gotten an update on that in quite some time, and I know that at some point we were pre-COVID experiencing some perhaps some lease agreement issues related to payment of funds there to continue to occupy that space, and have not heard if that was resolved or if there's a new contract or agreement in place. But a general status update on the Amador property next to CBB would be great to see where we're at on that. If Dr. Martinez, you or someone else can comment on that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Board Member Vasquez, this is Gisela Martinez for the record. So a couple of items. The Rio Grande Theater, although it's within Destination Downtown program, is fully funded by general fund. And so that's a clarification that I want to make. With respect to our public-private partnership with Amador Hospitality, earlier this year, we implemented an amendment that allowed for a different pay schedule, which has that was then later impacted for the current situation, but then we are on track on meeting the amendment to that contract.
Great, thank you, Dr. Martinez. That's great to hear. I'm glad to hear that. I was growing a little fearful there at the beginning of this year when just thinking about what the future was of that property, considering how hard everyone worked to make it happen. So I'm glad to hear that. On CAMPO Street, I'm also excited. I know that we talk about some of the side streets in downtown being connectors to downtown, but also certainly for CAMPO, a lot of potential new retail activity along CAMPO is excellent to continue to foster through this redevelopment and streetscape work that is coming. So that's exciting. I do have one quick question about the courthouse, the federal courthouse. I know they've been undergoing construction. It seems like they're doing a lot of, I don't know if it's structural or facade work, but it seems like that construction has been going on for quite some time. And so wondering if just related to that CAMPO redevelopment, if you've had any delays because of the courthouse or any updates on the courthouse construction itself. I don't think that they have the street closed off anymore, but I don't drive there too often anymore. So just a general update on that would be good.
Okay. Well, do you want that later or you want that now?
If we have any information now in terms of how long we're expected to see construction on the courthouse, I don't know if we're in the know on that. But like I said, it's been under construction for like 2 years, or at least some remodeling. So I'm just wondering if anyone on staff knows when that project is expected to end, or if not, that's okay. I'm happy to get an update via email at a different time.
Well, it looks like David Cedillo put his hand up. David?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Board Member Vasquez, David Cedillo, Interim Public Works Director. The federal courthouse building project, they were going through some updates to the building. They were re-roofing the building itself and then working on restuccoing the entire structure or the outside portion of it. They did, once they had their lane closures on CAMPO, they asked for an extension of that. And we let them know at that point in time that we would not support a lane closure. And since then, they have moved their fencing off of CAMPO and opened it up to full access. So at this point in time right now, that has not had any bearing on CAMPO and the design portion of it. So that project is separate. It's by the federal government. The only thing that they are doing at this point in time right now are making improvements to the building itself, which by the time we should be up and running with CAMPO, we should either be meeting on the latter part of their schedule, what they had given us about a year ago, and we haven't had an update from that, but it seems like they haven't had any delays. So it looks like once we start, we may encounter a little bit of overlap, but it shouldn't have major impacts to the project.
Okay. Great, thank you, David. And then my last comment here is just around the lights downtown. Yeah, what a great idea to have them extend all the way through. And I was just thinking, in consideration of not having our annual Christmas tree at the plaza, I think that there's still a place down near Mesilla, I want to say, where you can do the drive-by light show that has some theme music, like on an AM radio station, that I think a lot of people like to visit. I know there's maybe a couple of those things you can do in El Paso. I don't know if our lights are all going to be sequenced or not, or if we have the capability to do that. But in terms of a socially distanced Christmas celebration, I was just thinking, man, it'd be cool to drive by through Main Street and be able to tune into an AM radio station with, some sequence lights along the way. And, you could have a socially distanced, attraction downtown that people could do in their cars. But I don't know if our lights have the capability to do that, but just thinking about a fun way to keep those Christmas spirits up, and if that's possible or not.
It's been done before, Councilor Vasquez. We can do it again. EPE has to be involved.
That was
Well, there you go.
Board Member Sorg who made those comments. I'm sorry, Board Member Vasquez, you still have
Yeah, just wondering if that's something that staff has thought about or something we want to consider, if the lights that we bought have the capability to do that kind of thing.
Mr. Chair and Board Member Vasquez, currently the lights that we're going to be having installed do not have that capability for this year, but we can look with the contractor to see if that's a possibility going forward, since they do have timers and things like that, and we can look at some other options. I did also want to let you know that staff is working on a virtual celebration to kind of launch the lights going downtown and do some fun programming with that as well. And I know every year we put together kind of a list of things to do in the area. So we'll make sure that we include all of those drive-by lighting options for you.
Great. Thank you, Liz. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mayor. Those are all my questions and comments.
Board Member Flores?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just working off of what Gabe, Board Member Vasquez just said, you know, there are different parts in the city, like Pioneer Park, the residents there put out luminarias. And it just prompts me to think that maybe there can be a connection. And as Gabe said, or Board Member Vasquez said, I know Griffith Park in Los Angeles does that, where you just do a drive, you just sit in your car and there's a station you can tune into, and there's Christmas music playing the whole time. And so you still get that Christmas festivity type feeling going. And it's probably going to be very popular this year because of COVID. But I wonder if the city would have that capacity to do that, to, you know, provide maps of different places in the city, such as Pioneer Park, and then now we'll have Main Street. But just putting that out there for people to think about. I don't see it being difficult to have radio music, have a local, maybe KTEL or something, or KRWG cooperate in just having Christmas music or holiday music playing while people tour the different areas in the city that provide that beauty. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Looks like Sonia Delgado, Director of Parks, wants to comment.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Sonia Delgado, Director of Parks and Recreation. I just want to let you know that our team is getting together tomorrow, as a matter of fact, to talk about some ideas or maybe some things we might be able to do to create a drive-by area somewhere. We're not exactly sure, I think, but we've got the whole team thinking about that. So more to come, and if not, we'll definitely assist Liz in whatever she needs done at downtown. And we can see what we can do about helping create a map of some sort.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. Okay, Liz, now you have future TID priorities.
Mr. Chair and Board, that's going to be me, and Liz is going to help me with the technical side. Chris Faber with Economic Development. I don't have the ability to get the presentation up, so Liz is going to help me out here.
Okay.
Okay, so following up on Liz's presentation about current projects, we put together a few options for some future priorities of the TID, and we've got a few things here, and then it's open for discussion at the end. So the first option here is the Church Water Street redesigns, and this would be about $400,000 per street, and the idea would be to bring them up into consistency from a visual standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, with what's proposed for CAMPO Street and currently what Main Street looks like. And that would involve amenities such as bikes, bike racks, benches, and landscape updates as well. So that would be for both Church and Water Street. Go ahead, Liz. The next project is the Plaza Shade Structure. And, there was a work session presented on August 24th where we talked about this. Currently, there is about $140,000 remaining in Destination Downtown program for the shade structure. The options that were presented at the work session were approximately $1 million. And that was not with any solar component. With solar component, we are looking at estimates potentially of $1.5 million to possibly $2 million. And that, again, does not include the potential art element that was discussed. I do want to point out at this time that if this is a priority, given the amount of funds left in the TID, this could considerably drain the remaining funds. It could take possibly 90% or more of those funds. So just keep that in mind as we're prioritizing for the next year. If in fact this was a program that you wanted to move forwards with, we would be looking at additional public input sessions. There was one right before COVID, sometime in March, where we had about 20 people show up to an in-person meeting. So we would need to do additional public sessions for that. And then, of course, identify the TID funds for this particular project. Another potential option would be security cameras on Main Street. This would be funded, obviously, through the TID. And there's been a lot of increased business and activity along Main Street. So this would be a business-friendly project to help keep some eyes on activity on Main Street. It would involve working with the police department, IT, public works facility, and of course the economic development department. Currently, there is about $100,000 identified in capital funding for smart technologies, and this project could fit under that heading. And so right now we are looking into the scope of the project for details, timeline estimates, costs, all those types of things. So if that's something we're interested in, we could bring that back at a later date. And this last option is a program that's actually in its very early developmental stages already in the economic development department, and that's the Business Incubator Program. This program would align with Elevate Las Cruces, the Economic Development Strategic Plan, the MRA plan, and it would call for the use of the retail space at 135 East Griggs, which is the north side of the Muni Court building. And it would provide low risk, low cost space for small businesses. And it would also provide some training opportunities with some of our local partners in the community like Arrowhead and West and things of that nature. And the costs would be to facilitate operation and technical support. And bringing this to the TID would allow TID and the Economic Development Department to continue some continuity between efforts of both departments. So those are some proposed future projects, and I would like at this time to open it up for questions and discussion, and I will be available for questions as needed.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Looks like we have Vice Chair Gondara and Board Member Flores.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate all of that. From my perspective, I would love to see, first and foremost, if I had to prioritize, the cameras and updating Church and Water for sure. But I wanted to ask more questions around the incubator program, which was slide 5, right? Chris, would that be similar to a facility that, I'm not sure, Dr. Martinez, you've been, but I participated in that tour of in Juarez, where it's so amazing, right, that they had computers and space for conference rooms, just the technology there to build, to help people convene, meetings, but also all the other technical pieces that many people do not have at their fingertips. Would that be the such facility that we're looking at?
Mr. Chair, Griselda Martinez, Board Member Gandara. So this is a project that we started discussing about a month ago. So it's in a very early stage. The ultimate goal would be to provide space for entrepreneurs to launch their business and also have a space for them to have retail, a storefront, basically. I believe the building or the program that you are talking about in Juarez is the Tech Hub, and that's an amazing space. In my ideal world, that's where we would get eventually. What we're looking to have at this point is to have a pilot program to first ensure that we have the demand and people are interested. We would also look at having allocated spots for creative sector type of businesses, and for that to also be linked to the arts and cultural district goals and outcomes. And we still have to determine the space that we would actually have available for entrepreneurs. But ideally, we could have also the technical assistance, similar to what they do in Tech Hub, where they can have access to assistance, financial assistance. It would be close enough to go to City Hall for their registrations and so forth and so on. But also leveraging upon the work that we're already doing with our partners in Main Street, the Downtown Las Cruces Partnership, and also West SBDC Arrowhead Center. So to answer your question, the ultimate goal in my mind would be to have such space as Tech Hub. We would just launch it as a pilot program initially, and then explore further options from there.
Wow, yes, I would have. Thank you for that, Dr. Martinez. I was highly impressed with that Tech Hub. It's exciting what is, the ability, right, in a shared space to be able to do. But I also like that spin on the storefront option, Griselda. I think that is really important and really would give some, just a space for folks that normally can't afford to, but the ability to do that. I hear that often, how expensive a storefront is, and not quite ready to make that jump, right, from being a in-home business, if you will, to that, and that would help, I think. And so I really love that idea. I think it's excellent, and to start off as a pilot would be excellent. How are we managing anti-donation? How is this different?
So, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, so this would be within the Metropolitan Redevelopment Area, and the the MRA allows for fair value to provide assistance to businesses versus fair market value any other place outside an MRA. So the value here would be to be able to support entrepreneurship, to be able to catalyze more businesses downtown and increase GRT, but also hopefully these startups or entrepreneurs will be able to move into other spaces as they continue to grow. So the value to the community and to the city would be all of those, which allow for us to be able to provide this type of assistance.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That MRA, I think, is an important aspect for sure. And Dr. Martinez, please don't forget. I'm really interested in raising people up and out of poverty. So if a percentage of folks from, we could identify several people, and you know that I've been trying to get that accelerator time banking program off the ground, specific with, women at Hardin. That might meet, a particular guideline in terms of assisting folks, right? That to become more, just helping those folks that have limited income, that are poverty stricken. So I'd really love to explore this for sure. So my priorities is absolutely this, the business incubator program, from the aesthetic perspective, as Chris identified, the church and water, and then the security cameras, I think, are really important, specifically to that area. Often I get a lot of concern, right? And I think having that one particular huge camera, if you will, at the plaza has been a deterrent for a lot of things, but it can't capture all up and down, north and south, right, of that area. And please, because I didn't mention the shade structure, I think it's going to take us a little bit, right, to capture that money, that funding. And I'm hearing from some folks that they felt there wasn't adequate representation at that meeting last year. Moving forward, and I know some dynamics with the ACD, because I mentioned that I got a little bit of flack, I'll say that publicly, about mentioning, could we use money from the ACD to do this without asking the ACD first? And I don't want that to be an issue. I think there needs to be some planning related to this, and who knows, maybe there will be some capital outlay funding moving forward, and we should definitely ask. I saw Larry Aran on the call, and so I think I just don't think we're ready for something like that. Would I like for there to be an art element to that, the shade structure? Absolutely, but I also would like there to be solar panels. I think it just behooves us to move in that direction. The other last comment I'll make is I wanted to see, I didn't see this, is there opportunity to find funding for broadband up and down Main Street. I think that is an important piece, important element to this play. And I think as council, that was what I meant when we talked about broadband, not just in the plaza, but broadband up and down Main Street as an opportunity to garner more businesses down in that area. So I didn't see it, Chris, in your list, but I think that would be a nice opportunity. And really what I thought council then was meaning when we said broadband in the downtown area was broadband, not just at the plaza, but in the downtown, up and down Main Street. So thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Board Member Flores, or Dr. Martinez, you have any more comments, or forget to put your hand down? Okay. Board Member Flores.
Thank you, Chair Miyagishima. I have a question, and I don't know to whom or who, maybe Mr. Dolahan or maybe Dr. Martinez, but there's that 1% of monies when there's new construction that is allocated for public art. Does the construction of the plaza shade fall into that distribution of monies?
I think that comes on the city council side, Board Member Flores, but I'll let David Dolahan respond to that.
Thank you.
Okay, well.
Maybe he's not available.
Yeah, maybe so.
Does anybody else know?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Dr. Martinez.
Gisela Martinez for the record. Member Flores, I believe that the component of art dedicated within capital is when it comes from state appropriation, and we currently don't have any funding from capital appropriation for the shade structures.
That's what I was afraid of. It wouldn't come out of the monies here, but we need CIP money.
If the city council decide to have these shade structures as a priority for the state during capital appropriation request, we would definitely, and shall we get any funding from the state? I believe is 5% of the funding received needs to be allocated for art. It's 1%? Okay.
It's 1%, and they're requesting a 2% per, via a statute change, so, or an ordinance change. So currently it's only 1%, but I was afraid it wouldn't come from these, but it's something we can plan on. Because I agree with wholeheartedly with Vice Chair Gandara. That solar panels are very, very important. But art too is very important. And I think that some of the art that I see that I would love to see throughout the city is more of the art that really reflects our history. And that's just my personal thing. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the City Art Board in any way, but I just wanted to bring that up. Because I know the City Art Board is always looking for more money just to get that art out there. Because I think that too is essential to our souls and our spirit. Thank you very much, Chair Miyagishima. Thank you, Dr. Martinez.
Looks like Board Member Flores, looks like Amy Johnson-Basford may want to comment on your question.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Councilor Flores. Amy Johnson-Basford, Grants Administrator. I just wanted to clarify on state appropriations regarding the 1% for the art. That is a decision made by the state, whether or not that particular appropriation will have a 1% for the art. It is generally for when we are in the process of constructing a building, that 1% is held back by the state. So not every capital outlay appropriation by the state automatically has that 1% withheld. So just wanted to clarify that for you.
So Ms. Basford, does that mean that the shade structure is not considered, quote, construction, unquote? You're talking more about a brick and mortar type of construction, because that is construction. I mean, it has to be put up.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, I would think that would be one that is kind of on the margin, and really how they decide these things are generally, if it's over $100,000 and you are actually building a bricks and mortar project, they will hold the 1% back. So I'm not sure how they would view shade structures, whether those would be actually considered capital building project.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your explanation, clarification. Thank you, Yoshima.
Let's see, Board Member Bencomo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I almost said Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. I wondered, I wanted to comment real quick on the solar panels as well. I feel like I'm pretty certain that we did not get a full presentation on a solar panel proposal at the work session. I would certainly like to see what that would look like, because I don't want to make a decision on that simply on the basis that it's expensive and will deplete our funds. I want to make sure that we have a solid presentation proposal laid out. And I would even love to discuss, perhaps it's pricey, but in the long term, what could the revenues potentially generated by the solar panels, what they could be used for? Could they go back to the TID? Could we use them for something bigger downtown? I don't know. I think cities that have done this put them into like an education fund, whatever, right? Like I think we could get really creative in a way that it would actually offset the initial cost. So I would like to see that proposal before we made any final decision, unless we already did, which I feel like we didn't. That's right. But I would like to see that for myself, and given what I've heard from some of my colleagues, I think that would be great. So that's one thing. My other question,
Board Member Bencomo, you want to hear from Tony Trevino?
Oh,
Looks like
sure.
he has his hand up. Tony, do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Councilor Bencomo. So the way we approached that public meeting for the shade structures is we showed them several different designs, materials, and kind of looks. And what we said, we would take the 3 highest voted concepts and move forward to City Council in the work session. So the solar panels were presented, but they were number 4 in the list, and the whole intent would be the top 3. So it was discussed and it was there, but we just moved forward with the top 3. But that is something we can certainly go and relook at, because I think there's some more discussions that should be held if there's some concerns about the participation in that meeting and so forth. And I think we're kind of had a little bit of time for that, so we can definitely bring that up and kind of look at it.
Thanks, Tony. And like I said, I would love that to not just be like, here's an option where there's solar panels. I would love it to be, here's the option, and in the long run, this is what the solar panels could mean for our community.
Right. And one of the things we got to look at is that is a lot of solar that's going to be produced there. And where are we going to use it at? What kind of battery storage? And that's kind of out of my expertise. We're going to get a lot of stuff to look at of how we're going to utilize a lot of that power, if we have enough usage there, or what we're going to do with it. So that's definitely something to look at.
Yeah, I definitely don't have any of this expertise either, but I think those are good questions to ask before certainly I can make a decision.
Tony, is this something that we could do a third-party agreement with or on?
Mayor, I don't see or not. That'd be something you'll have to discuss with economic development and how we want to proceed with this. And I think get Lisa LaRocque involved too and see what are our options. So that's something we can definitely look at.
Yeah, Board Member Bencomo, if we do a third-party agreement, basically what that means is we find someone who's looking for the tax credits and the write-offs, and then they'll actually provide us the income to pay for the debt service of the structure, and then that way there we can pretty much do it for free. Then the savings that we get from electric costs will be what we use to pay for the debt service. So
Interesting. Yeah.
we can take a look at those.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in that for sure. Thank you, Mayor, Chair.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have another question. I wanted, can someone just further discuss the security cameras? I have some concerns about that.
What were your concerns?
So there is no evidence that says surveillance actually decreases crime. I'm concerned about what it could potentially mean for, like, who's monitoring the cameras? Is it going back to LCPD? Like, are there going to be new policies in place to ensure there's no racial profiling? Like, I feel like there's steps that should be taken, that I would at least like to see in terms of what the security cameras downtown will mean.
Yeah, Board Member Bencomo, I know I pushed a lot for this. We were getting a lot of reports from a lot of the patrons, specifically a lot of the women that were feeling a little bit intimidated because it was dark and they were a little scared. So these cameras really were meant to just be able to, hopefully not a crime takes place, but really they're just more to let people know, hey, you know what, there's cameras out here. So hopefully that deters crime. I don't think it was going to be used for any profiling. It is really more to let the patrons know in the downtown, because it was getting to the point there where it was getting pretty packed, and there were certain areas that they had to walk that was pretty dark, and it's the city just needed to do something. Even from a liability standpoint, they needed to make sure it was safer.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm curious about other security measures that can be taken before security camera. Like, as a woman walking downtown, I see a security camera. It doesn't necessarily make me feel safer. I think lighting makes me feel safer. I think like those kinds of things. And so like I said, Mayor, I don't actually think there's strong evidence that says surveillance reduces crime.
Well, I guess we'll let Chief talk about that. I know that if, someone was to get mugged or get their wallet or purse stolen and there was cameras there and they could, I think they'll think twice after about two or three different times that this is not the place to be doing the mugging because they have your picture. But I don't know. Chief, you want it?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're responsible with whatever.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I think they've got a lot of other things going on, and I don't think they're going to be sitting there watching the camera, but it'll be available if needed. The footage, and then that's probably only for so long too, because I think it can only save for 2 or 3 weeks, and then maybe it has to be reused. I don't know. I'm just guessing because the storage is really the expensive part of it.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor. Chair.
Let's see. I think we have, let's see. Board Member Flores, did you still have your hand up or was that, you just forgot to put it down? Okay. Board Member, Vice Chair Gandara.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I appreciate Board Member Flores bringing up the idea of the 1%. We, early on, when I first got elected and they were building the Amador, we had talked about later when it was already upright that why haven't we considered putting a 1%? So it doesn't mean that it prevents us from, as a council, saying yes. And when we do something like that specifically in the TID, that we would direct 1% for art. And so that's a conversation that we should have. I'd love to see our hopefully soon hired policy analyst look into that and bring something forward to council related to this, because I know this council in particular is priorities around art, right? So, and ensuring that we have more of that around in our neighborhoods and our districts, and particularly in downtown. And the other thing to the concerns around Board Member Bencomo and the security, just being the representative for downtown and knowing what I know about the things that have happened there related to property crime, unfortunately, the numbers of people that we were seeing in the downtown, specific to the Amador Rad, now that Icebox there, lighting was a big issue. So we made a concerted effort to put temporary lighting, specifically parking lot 7, under David Maestas when he was at Public Works. And so now parking lot 7 is being worked on, not only bathrooms, but the lighting, and then lighting in that entire area, because there were other identified spaces, the lighting there, La Izquierda, right? La Esquina, excuse me. In that parking lot, that's specific to the print shop there, right? That people, women, and others were identifying, corners that were dark. It was, and people are leaving the bars 1 o'clock, 2, 3 in the morning, right? So we wanted to make sure. So I wanted to address that. I also know there's been high crime in that area until we started making some concerted efforts in terms of getting law enforcement this was the businesses asking us for these specific things, right? Lighting, security cameras, those kinds of things. And again, I agree with you that we want to make sure that we're all accountable, that we're not using that to profile people. But I can tell you that huge numbers were in the downtown and it was scary. It was starting to become a bit scary with people over drinking, the things that were happening there. Almost on a weekly basis, I was getting lots of feedback about what was happening. And so I agree, but I just wanted you to know that there was a concerted effort about putting temporary lighting and really trying to address that from a different perspective. So thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Chris, was that it? Was there anything more?
No, Mr. Chair, that's it. Just wanted to give you an opportunity to discuss.
Okay, great. I believe that's it. Then we'll take some of that information you told us and we'll communicate that to a management team and may move forward on another agenda if you need us to approve something. Good?
Sounds good, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing further, entertain a motion to adjourn and then don't cancel. We're going to still use this and then switch to our work session.
Move to
I'm sorry,
adjourn.
same link?
Same link, yeah, just, don't cancel, don't click off, just wait for us to switch over, start recording. Okay, so is a motion by Board Member Flores and
Correct.
I'll second it.
second by Board Member Sorg. Okay, that we adjourn. Christine, will you call the roll, please?
This is on the motion to adjourn the TID board meeting. Board Member Abeyta-Stuvey,
Yes.
Board Member Vasquez,
Yes.
Board Member Bencomo,
Yes.
Board Member Sorg,
Yes.
Board Member Flores,
Yes.
Board Member Gondara,
Yes.
Chair.
Yes. Okay, we're adjourned. It's 2:20 p.m. Adrian, are you gonna just wait? We're just gonna wait 30 seconds or